to our nutrition. We talked a little bit about the meat and being picky about where to buy it, but what about being picky about where we buy our produce? That's a big one. How challenging is that to find produce that not only is fresh, you want it organic, it's hard to afford that. You want to make sure that it was grown to the peak ripeness so it has all the nutrients in it, otherwise it's pretty much a dead plant. If it's been off the vine or off the bush for a few days, it's lost its life force. And so we really are challenged as a universe to be able to feed the body the necessary plants that we need to get every single day in a consistent manner. Most people will tell me, I do great. On the weekends, we have salads, we have veggie omelets, we do all kinds of things, but all during the week, I'm so busy, I can't eat. Well, you're looking at someone like that, okay? I am so busy, but again, we're all so busy. But are we so busy that we can't take care of ourselves to fuel the body, because it's the fuel that we put in that has to counteract all the damage that we get around us? And that's called oxidative stress. Do you know that term, oxidative stress? That is like rusting, like metal rusting in the wet weather. When we rust, we age. So plants are actually anti-aging properties that we have to take into our body every single day so that we can preserve the cells from dying. The cells will replicate every 4 months in our body, but their DNA strands that make up them inside, they snip off. They're called telomeres. And with damage and stress and lack of sleep and lack of good food and overactivity, just general life will snap off those telomeres and cause that cell to age prematurely. That's where you start seeing wrinkles in the face. That's where you start feeling the aches and pains in the body. It's that activity happening that we're not counteracting with something called an antioxidant. Many, many years have been recommended vitamin C, vitamin E, beta carotene, antioxidants. And then a few years ago we heard the articles, oh, antioxidants are horrible. They'll cause heart disease and cancer and all kinds of things. But what they were talking about was they were talking about supplemental antioxidants, taking like high doses of vitamin C, high doses of vitamin E, beta carotene in an unnatural form. But when we get our nutrients from plants, we don't have to choose how much Mother Nature meant for us to get that day. We just need to make sure we have every color of the rainbow coming in every single day. Well, how many of us do that? Really? How many of us do that? I don't. And so that's why I have to recommend something in my practice, which is a whole food concentrate. It's called Juice Plus. You've probably heard about it, but in one fell swoop, every single day, and it's a picture, and you guys take these postcards home. One picture, 6 capsules, and if you don't want to swallow capsules, you put the powders in your smoothie or in your drink or whatever it is you take, but you get all your nutrition that you're not consistently getting, and then you eat what you can in addition. But if you think about what we're eating, we can't even come close to 5, never mind 7 to 13, but there's 26 in here. The more plants we put in our body, the more antioxidants that we have to fight off the oxidative stress, and the less aging is going to happen. When people start to juice, how many people have juicers? Do you guys do any juicing? Good. Juicing is an excellent way to stay very healthy because you're getting your nutrients right into the system. Well, when you don't have time to juice, guess what? That Juice Plus capsule, those powders in there, when taken with water, is a juicing program in a pill. But there are a couple of advantages. First of all, there isn't any sugar in the capsules. So if you're highly sensitive to sugar and inflammation happens when you eat sugar, you get achy or you get tired or you get that low feeling after, you don't do that when you take the powdered form because they remove that sugar on purpose. When we're talking about sugar, how many people know that cancer feeds on sugar? Is that news to anyone here? That's what the food source is for cancer. It's also the food source for yeast. So when there's yeast, And we hear a lot of our friends say, oh, I've got a yeast infection. I've got to go call my doctor. I have a yeast infection. Yeast infections aren't fun. But where there's a yeast infection, there is a brewing environment for cancer to grow in because it's the same food. So if your body's overgrown with yeast, then you're overgrown with cancer food. And that's important. So that's where people start to learn about, well, what can I do to prevent yeast? Well, first of all, decreasing the sugar. And so I always recommend juicing, but I don't want people juicing fruit. I want them juicing greens. I want them juicing kale. I want them juicing whatever it is. And Cricket sitting up here saying, she juices everything. But you know, juicing is an awesome thing to do because when you're juicing, you're not eating meat. You're eating plants. And you're eating plants with their nourishment going right into the cells. Well, that's why I wanted to share with you that if you're not up to juicing and you're not up to that task, that taking the Juice Plus every single day, you can still juice, but juice more of the veggies and leave the fruits up to the Juice Plus. Now, leading to my next topic would be, the next prevention tool would be probiotics. How many in this room take probiotics? Probiotics, if you don't know what probiotics are, what they are is good bacteria for the gut and the whole body, but they grow in the gut. When we can grow good bacteria in the gut, then we can crowd out that yeast that might be growing in there from too much sugar. So it's like a little domino effect. So when you're someone who wants to take an active role in changing the way you've been eating, maybe really reversing the way your body fights off disease and things, decreasing sugar is the first step, but then adding a probiotic into the body every day on an empty stomach, first thing in the morning and or last thing before bed. It's like you're putting in a fresh scoop of produce that's been rotting in your fridge, but putting it in your compost bin and stirring it up. You know how great that compost bin looks after a couple of weeks of putting your scraps in there? Well, that's what happens inside, but you can get it in a powder form or a capsule form, and it's going to grow a great compost bin inside your gut. When there's a great bacteria count in the gut, nothing else can grow in there. There's no room for it to grow. I always give an example of having a fresh plot of land in your backyard and rototilling a garden. And then getting so busy you forget the seeds. You didn't bring the seeds with you, but you've got this freshly rototilled, beautiful, beautiful loam. It's beautiful, dark, rich. There's worms in it. It's all ready. But then you go on a trip and you come back a week later. You didn't plant your seeds in there, but what's going on? There's a bunch of stuff growing in there, right? Nothing you wanted. That's the same in our gut. So if we don't put on purpose the plants or the nutrients and the bacteria to grow in our garden, then everything that we don't want will grow there. Believe me, it will grow there. So when you get that little bout of diarrhea or you've got that upset stomach and you go, geez, I must have eaten something wrong, think about it. Have you had that gut pain on and off for a couple of days or a couple of weeks? Get on some probiotics and it goes away. Because you're telling whatever's in there, get out, you don't belong here, and what that will do is improve your immune system. And so when I recommend probiotics to people, it's not just when they're on antibiotics. Because if you take an antibiotic, what do? You kill off the bad bacteria, but you're killing off all the good stuff too. So if you've worked really hard at trying to grow that good compost bin in there, and you've taken a Z-Pack in the last week, you're walking around with a sterile gut. It's now empty. It's that rototilled garden just waiting for the weeds to grow in it, so you've got to get busy. And I always say 2 months is about what it takes to really focus on getting that gut full. Because what happens? How many times have you had a bacterial infection, say a bronchitis, and you go to your provider and they give you an antibiotic, and then you get over that, and 2 weeks later you catch the cold from your husband, and you're sick again, and you go, why am I sick again? I just got over this. Why do you think? Your immune system is depleted. So get really busy, and I always use the Juice Plus, especially when people are sick, because I don't want them eating a lot of food. I want them healing. I want them getting nutrients but little food, because I want the energy to go to healing the body. So I tell them take Juice Plus every 2 hours for about 2 days and don't eat very much. Just do the chicken soup or the broth, the broth, but let the body get a lot of antioxidants so it tells that bacteria or that virus to go away. And you can do that at home as well, but juicing is a lot more work. And it's not practical. I mean, most people are not successful at it long term. So then there's one more piece that I will talk about before I move on to the imaging topic. And that is the topic of sea salt. We talked a little bit about the iodine being put in table salt, and then we talked about how nobody wants us to use it. So I'm here to tell you that there is a salt that you should be using, and you should use it every single day on purpose. It's called Celtic sea salt or Hawaiian sea salt. These salts have 80 vital minerals in them. Table salt has sodium and chloride. So if I want to salt my food, this stuff tastes delicious. It does not have iodine in it. So don't forget that. You have to take your iodine. I have heard that there are some companies putting iodine in sea salt, but they're not putting it in this sea salt, which has the highest mineral count. You see how wet this salt is? It's very heavy. It's actually, you have to grind it in the grinder. The wetter the content, the wetter the salt, the more minerals it holds. So we have seen people using sea salt to lower their blood pressure. Does that make sense to you, like taking salt? You have the buffering of the minerals to offset the sodium so it releases the fluid from the body. Many people can get off of water pills or diuretics by using sea salt. And many times people will say, wow, I started using the sea salt and my rings come off my fingers so much easier. I don't understand that. I'm eating all this salt. And if salt is not your thing because you haven't acquired a taste for it, try putting some in your water. Just a little bit. Not enough to make it taste bad, but just a little bit, a couple of grinds in your water. Put it on your food. Put it in your food. Just get it in. About a 1/4 teaspoon to a 1/2 teaspoon a day is what our bodies need that. And then make sure that the water you're drinking, of course, is going to be filtered or pH balanced, even better, making alkaline water. And that's what adding the sea salt to the water actually does, is it alkalinizes the water. And that is one thing that when you learn about pH balance, cancer only lives in an acidic environment. Our bodies get acidic when we eat meat or sugar. So when we eat plants and use sea salt and minerals like that, we alkalinize the body. And that helps to prevent it. Any questions right this moment about what I've covered? Because I'm going to move on. Yes, Cricket?
Doesn't dairy make your body acidic also?
Dairy foods is a an animal protein. It's exactly what we were talking about. Yes, dairy is very mucus producing. It has a lot of chemicals in it if it's not organic. And it is one of the highly allergic foods that people have. NSA, the company that makes Juice Plus, they have their own growers. And so many of them are grown in an organic method, but because organics is very hard to test the soil for, 7 years they have to test the soil. And so they're working on really making more and more of the ingredients organic, and they did announce that recently. There is organic kale for sure because they grow all their kale themselves. They're the highest producer of kale in the world. Juice Plus is distributed in 22 countries, and so you know the countries are very strict about allowing any kind of a supplement. Well, that's the best part. Juice Plus isn't a supplement, it has a nutrition label, and it's just food. It's just confusing when it's packaged in a pill and people think it's a vitamin. But it's whole food nutrition, just like a juicing program. So it's like, picture a big juicer shoved down into these little capsules, and that's the benefit that you get. But it's backed by the research. There's 22 studies now, published gold standard, so that we are sure that what we get is pesticide, herbicide free.